Alright, TV musings time with Fall TV review. Review with Scorpion. Hey everyone, it is Shannon. It's time to look at another TV show starting this fall, starting this week on Monday, the September 22nd. In Canada, it is played on CityTV, and it's called Scorpion. And it's funny because this is one of the shows, the new shows this season, that I wasn't originally going to watch. I remember hearing about it. It sort of sounded like it was about, a bunch of people. It felt kind of Americana, but like Save the World, group of misfits. That usually gets me. But then I saw the trailer and it has Robert Patrick in it, and then it really sort of fleshed out the group of misfits kind of thing, and there was something about it that just really caught my eye. And it's actually a bit different than I expected. I thought it was Robert Patrick pulling together a team, but it isn't. It's him reconnecting with someone that he used to work with, who actually already has a team, but they are very not successful. Like, they're all geniuses, but they're living together and, like, skimming electricity off the, grid and stuff like that. Like, so it's kind of funny. So they're all really smart, but they're not very successful. And I think that's an interesting and different take that we've seen, although of course, like the premise of the show is they sort of like become, a team and work, and they can do what they can do as a job, as opposed to they're trying to, like, there's getting by on this, that, the other thing. So anyway, so it was very different than I expected, and it's described as a team that solves complex global issues. So for me, the global issues problems isn't always something that I'm interested in. I can think of Intelligence from last year. It just sort of, it ended up reading as Americana. Being Canadian, that's not something that's totally of interest to me. It's so ever present, you can't get away from it. Anyway, But this one pulled me, and it's actually loosely based on the real-life events of the self-proclaimed genius. I'm taking that right from Wikipedia, Walter O'Brien, who founded the company called Scorpion. It's a computer company. So what I did enjoy it, and what I enjoyed about it, and I kind of, it's so weird, I don't like especially describing new shows and comparing them to old shows, but this one really did read as sort of like Human Target meets Lie to me, and I say that because I watched both of those shows this summer and on Netflix, and I really enjoyed both of them, especially both of them, but especially Human Target. It was fun to see a show that was kind of action oriented, team get together and like go around to do crazy things, and this one has that feel to it too, and it has the sort of lie to me aspect because one of the guys in the team is a psychologist, so he sort of knows what people are thinking or knows how people would behave. So let's get to the team, because it is really, really about the team, and the lead of the show is Walter. He's played by Elyse Gabel, I hope I got that right, who's a computer genius, and he has been since he was a kid when he hacked into NASA. We also have Sylvester, the math whiz, played by Ari Stidham, and then Toby, the psychologist, played by Eddie K. Thomas, and Happy, the mechanical engineer, played by Jadyn Wong. And then we also have Robert Patrick, who's sort of like the company man, and he plays Cabe Gallo, who works for Homeland Security. And then there was more characters I wasn't expecting. We also have Paige, played by Katharine McPhee, who's the waitress, and they take over this cafe in the first episode just to sort of, because they need somewhere they can be, and rely on the wireless connection or the Wi-Fi, and she's the waitress there. Her son is of similar ilk to the geniuses of the team, and she sort of serves as their human contact, touchstone, heart kind of thing, and it looks like they're going to bring her in as that. So it's weird because there's some things that what I really liked about the episode was it did have some action to it. I'm not always one that's going to push, must be exciting and action oriented, but this first episode was directed by Justin Lin, and you can feel it. I'm a fan of Justin Lin. I've liked the films that he's done, and you can feel it. There's car chases and it's crazy. It's really over the top. I don't know if every episode will be like that, but it has that sort of over-the-top zeal feel to it. But it also had, it's weird, because it had, like, Paige brings some heart, but the weird thing about this that I'm quite not sure how I feel about is that it sort of presents that this group, these people are sort of like they're intellectual geniuses but emotionally completely inept, like just completely inept. OCD, I don't know actually if OCD is an emotional thing, but they have one character, the math guy, is definitely OCD, and they can only function in certain ways, and then once you get that, they're amazing. So there's this interesting thing about ability and inability, but there's some things that I'm kind of just like, I'm not sure that I buy. Like, one of the lines that Walter says to Paige is that he says, I don't have a right brain, and referring to left brain and right brain, with left brain being logical and right brain being creative, I guess, and emotional is what they're saying. But it's like, you that's not possible. Like, everyone's you can be dominant, but you can't not have any logic at all or any creativity at all. But it's that, I guess it's presenting that struggle, like what it is like to have that struggle. And they also really throw in the emotional bit there, but the weirdest part about it is there's the awareness of the inability of, like, Walter is aware that he's incapable of doing these things, but is he incapable? Like, or is it just that he doesn't want to, or isn't good at it, and he only wants to do the things that he's good at? So there's some really interesting questions there in terms of, like, human behavior. But what I don't understand is when they have a psychologist as part of the team, they understand human behavior, so how come he can't be the piece of that? Or does he just always pull one over on people, like to get what he wants? It's hard to say. He's not in the episode as much as Walter is, and probably not as much as Paige is. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because it feels like he would be, like, he understands people, but it's weird. It's like, are they just not interested? Like, there's some people. Happy was not in. She, was very much did the mechanical engineer part of, like, getting into things, and how do you break into this and break into that? And I never would have thought of mechanical engineering as that kind of thing, but I guess maybe it is. But so and she seems fine personality wise, but the math guy is very OCD, and so there's something, I don't know, there's enough of interest there to really pull it in, but it's a little hard because Walter as a character is not that likable, because he's so like, yeah, I just don't do emotions, thanks. It's like, well, for us to connect with the character as an audience, we're gonna need something. So there was some, you could feel like it was buried and stuff, but I think that is one of the challenges, that overall it's hard to connect to it, and he's not a very likable character. And that may be a choice, and that may be the truth, and that may be all those things, but as a viewer, you need a reason to show up. You need a reason to be like, I want to see what's gonna happen here, of course, the plot and what happens and stuff like that, which is funny because I haven't talked about that at all, because for me it's not as interesting as these questions, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then of course there's also Paige, who's the waitress, and her son is like these guys, super smart, but there's something kind of weird that I feel about it, because it's like they can understand what he's doing, that he's playing chess with, like, the condiments and little salt shakers and stuff like that, and saying that she doesn't understand him, and that he can help translate for her what's going on in his brain and stuff like that. But then she is able to get through to them when they're having problems, and she's learned that through working with her son. So for me, there's a bit of a disconnect here of sort of like, oh, we know better than you do. It's like, really? And why does it have to be a better or worse thing? But there's also like a lot of little threads in here about sort of being able to rebuild broken friendships and relationships, because one of the big things is that Walter, the main character, when he was a kid or younger, it's not quite clear, worked for Robert Patrick's character, and it did not go well. So there's a lot of, in him, there's a lot of resistance and hurt, but does he feel hurt if he doesn't feel anything, right? And stuff like that. And sort of the opportunity to see a young kid who was like him, and can he help him, you know, and stuff like that. So for me, there's a lot in terms of the relationships I find interesting. The story, it's like, you know, like for me, it's kind of like a weird, it could be, it's hard to say, but it's kind of like a procedural in the fact that every time there will be some big thing they have to solve or figure out. But for me, I find the character dynamics way more interesting, and the other stuff is just like the plot that just happens. There's like explosions and like, you know, they gotta get it down before the last minute, and the clock's ticking and all that kind of stuff, and the tension rolls and all that kind of stuff. And it's great, but for me, I'm more interested in the other stuff. But all that stuff in this particular episode was pretty exciting, and they did some interesting things because a lot of times computer-centric, you know, gotta fix a computer type stuff. To be honest, like, how exciting is it, right? Like, how exciting is it when you've had a computer problem and had to solve it? It ain't that fun. So this, of course, is a bigger scale, huge global issue, you know, so it's more, you know, it's more important, you know, than, like, say, you know, just gotta fix something on your computer. But in terms of a dynamic, in terms of storytelling, in terms of watching, it can be pretty dry, but they made it very flashy and very exciting. So overall, I did enjoy it. It brought up lots of questions. I definitely will keep watching, and I'm looking forward to hearing what other people thought about it. On a technical note, ironically, I did try to watch it on my phone with the CityTV app, and I was not able to do so. I could not get past the advertising unless I clicked the advertising. Then I saw the first section, and then it errored out after the second commercial, so that really bothered me. And then on their website, they did one of the things that drives me bananas, and I forgot, it's almost always the case when I watch something on City TV Online, is that the episode is one volume, and then the commercials are extremely loud in comparison. So I should definitely give them that feedback, because I've been noticing that, you know, every time I watch Nashville, I was like, oh my gosh, it just like all of a sudden it exploded, and it's just really, really loud. So on the tech side of things, didn't have the best viewing experience, but I persisted because I really wanted to see the show, and it was definitely worth it. So Scorpion airs Mondays at 9 o'clock on CityTV. I will leave the link below, and I watched it online. Eventually, that's how I ended up watching it. I might try and catch it on TV to not have to deal with that volume issue. So let me know. Have you seen it? Did you like it? What's your take on it? I'd love to hear. Okay, thanks so much for watching.